Students, welcome to another Mr. Ness screencast. Today's aim is acculturation, and here are your objectives. Pause the video, look these questions over, and get ready to copy some vocab and take some notes. Your first term is acculturation, which refers to the process by which a minority group adjusts to the culture of a dominant group. When a minority culture interacts with the dominant one, it can choose to adjust in different ways. Before I tell you about those different ways of adjusting, let's get one more term out of the way. That term is assimilation. Assimilation means that the members of the minority culture mostly abandon their culture and adopt the traits of the dominant culture. Let's think about Chinese immigrants living in an ethnic enclave like Brooklyn's Chinatown. If these immigrants assimilate, they give up their Chinese culture in exchange for American culture. For example, they might stop speaking Chinese in favor of English, or they might stop celebrating Chinese traditions or holidays in favor of American ones, like 4th of July. In other words, they are leaving their former culture behind and becoming American. Assimilation has advantages and disadvantages. On the plus side, it allows members of the minority culture to fit in with the dominant one and feel accepted. More importantly, that acceptance often creates opportunities for advancement, like finding a job more easily. On the other hand, assimilation means forgetting the culture of one's ancestors, which can be painful for people. I know that many of you watching are first or second generation immigrants and have probably had to navigate these issues yourself. On your vocab sheet, there is a space under the definition for groups that resist assimilation, but you can leave that blank for now. I'll come back to it in a moment. For now, let's return to the idea of acculturation and look at some different ways that minority groups can adjust to the majority culture. This chart shows 4 possible ways that acculturation can occur, depending on the extent to which the minority culture chooses to adopt the traits of the majority one. Let's go through each type. If the minority culture retains their culture and adopts the new one, we call that integration. To go back to our example of Chinese immigrants in the US, integration would mean that those immigrants become bicultural. They speak Chinese and English. They celebrate Chinese New Year and 4th of July. They cook Chinese foods and American ones. Integration is a goal for many immigrants who want to fit in with the majority, but also retain their old ways. If the minority culture adopts the new culture but abandons their own, we call that assimilation, and that's what I told you about a minute ago. If the minority group retains their own culture but does not adopt the dominant one, we call that separation. This means that the minority culture basically lives apart, refusing to adopt dominant traits. I'll give you some examples of that in a moment. Finally, if the minority culture abandons their own culture but does not adopt the majority, we call it marginalization. Marginalization is bad. It leads to people feeling like they have no clear identity, creating confusion and frustration. People that experience marginalization may resort to negative coping behaviors, such as substance abuse or even suicide. Okay, the 2 most important forms of acculturation here are the 2 that you wrote down: assimilation and its opposite, separation. Now I want to look at 2 immigrant groups in the US who reject assimilation into mainstream American culture and instead practice separation. The first group is the Amish. The Amish are a Protestant Christian denomination that immigrated to the US from Germany in the 1700s. The Amish live simply and reject many forms of modern technology, including automobiles. You may have seen them moving from place to place in horse-drawn carriages like the one in this image. Their rejection of technology puts them at odds with mainstream American culture, especially with pop culture. Most Amish learn a living through small-scale farming, woodworking, or construction. The Amish are concentrated in rural areas of the Northeast, with the highest numbers living in Pennsylvania and Ohio. The second group that rejects assimilation are Orthodox Jews. Orthodox Judaism is not a centralized denomination, and Orthodox Jews are not a single monolithic group. But we can say that they share a close adherence to the teachings of the Torah, Judaism's holy text, with little room for compromise with modern ideas. As a result, they tend to reject many mainstream American ideas and practices. You'll learn more about their beliefs and practices in the next class. Unlike the Amish, Orthodox Jews tend to live in urban areas, especially in New York. And within New York, they are concentrated most heavily right here in Brooklyn. On this map, you can see 3 distinct concentrations or enclaves of Orthodox Jews in Brooklyn. One in Borough Park, one in Crown Heights, and one in Williamsburg. Okay, it's time to review the objectives, and if you don't know the answer to any of them, rewind the video and look again. I will see you in class. Bye, students.